All right. Welcome everyone. Tonight is Tuesday, October 17th. It's a little after 7. This is an advisory meeting. Tonight's agenda, just wanted to get everyone together. Brian and I have been talking back and forth about a couple of things. One, just kind of setting up a schedule for this fall, just to have something on the books. And then also, I wanted to get your input on the overall calendar that we have got lined up for this coming year, and then just briefly discuss some liaison coverage. So with that said, what I was proposing was, at the suggestion of Brian, was to have a advisory meeting in November as well as one in December. And given that both of those months have holidays, to me what made sense would be 11/14 and 12/12. So I will, seeing that we are down a couple tonight, I'll just put this in an email to Linda, fired around the horn. Last week when we were talking with Dawn, both Brian and I were working with Dawn Lowe. Dawn sent me a draft of the letter.
That he was going to send.
Exactly, the official budget letter.
Right.
Coming out of the last time we were all together, I think, when we were at the Houghton building, Brian, feel free to jump in if I'm missing anything here. Brian was working with Mike Gore from Capital Planning. They were just putting the final touches on the capital planning sheet that goes out to the budget. So that got finalized, got it to Dawn. Dawn blessed it, had a staff meeting last week, passed it out to the department heads, and I want to say he's very close, if he hasn't already done it, to send out the letter as well. He indicated to me that he wanted to give them just a little bit of a break, take a look at the capital planning. But from what I can gather, we're probably going to be about a month ahead of schedule relative to where we were last year. So, last year, I want to say budgets came back to Dawn around the second week in December, and I'm thinking, we're on track to have them back, second to midweek in November. So that's kind of the overview of kind of where we are between now and 12/31. What I then did, and I think I shared this with you guys, was it really just took the whole budget and really just threw out the calendar. My previous philosophy was, if the wheel is working, why go out and create a new wheel? But the fact of the matter is, it did seem to be, falling off a little bit last year. So we wanted, the idea of trying to accelerate things. So what I did was really, kind of go through the budget and say, okay, what are the biggest budget drivers? And group those and did those first. So you can see that the first week, we've got police and DPW. And so what I'm proposing is, in the early weeks, and we can get this done in basically 3 weeks, the first 3 weeks in January, assuming we go Tuesdays and Thursdays. I am open to a conversation. I heard some feedback Dawn shared with me about the possibility of maybe Thursday is not a good night because it's also selectmen, and if selectmen want to be here, they can, and or if we want to be at a selectmen. But the other thing is, it's done in 3 weeks, and I think at most we miss 1 or 2 selectmen's meetings, right? And vice versa, whoever needs could always catch up. Now again, I'm not opposed to changing it around. I do think we should try and go 2 nights a week. I think we should try and get this hammered out, and in January, can you guys stomach going deep into the night 2 nights in a row, like a Tuesday, Wednesday?
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking, was that we might want to move the second night to Wednesday, although, boy, that'd be tough.
Exactly, because I foresee, I mean, if you think about it, we are going to be going deep into the night. I mean, it's going to be, I would like to think, because we have been doing this, everyone has had a full cycle, we know what's going on, right? And because of the rigor that we've put these departments, I don't foresee us spending a tremendous amount of time, or having to spend a tremendous amount of time on the actual budget. I think we can be rather efficient on that. But I'm also proposing that when they're here, we're talking to them about capital items.
Yep.
So we're definitely going to be going, deeper into the night. So again, I'd be interested to get your feedback in a conversation like this, as opposed to trying to do it through email.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was the biggest reason for this meeting tonight. I mean, we'll still have to, get the blessing around by email, but what are your thoughts?
Well, I do think that one of the real improvements that we had this last cycle over the previous one that I was in, previous two that I was in, I guess, I don't remember, was that we had the selectmen presence. I think that's really important.
I agree, it was definitely helpful.
It was definitely helpful. So, well, I'll only speak for myself, and much as I hate to do it, I would be willing to go 2 nights in a row, Tuesday, Wednesday. That means Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday if we decide to go to a selectmen's meeting.
That's right.
Which is really brutal. But, not the selectmen are brutal, but.
No, exactly. And you know what? I didn't, and I would think, even they, I got the sense that they were doing somewhat of a round robin, between the 3 of them last year.
Yes, they were.
Which, again, that only makes sense given the schedule that they are required to keep. I mean, who wants to be in front of us all night long? So, not that we have to get their blessing on what we should have for a meeting schedule. Yeah, I mean, I honestly simply took Tuesday, Thursday just to have a break in between, but
Right.
whatever.
I mean, the other possibility might be, do we have to meet on a Tuesday? Could we meet on Monday, Wednesday, say? Mondays are, I don't like to meet Mondays because I'm often at the Cape,
Yeah.
but, I could certainly do that if everybody else wanted that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, I guess I'm somewhat, and I'm not, well, I'll admit it, I am a traditionalist. But the
We've
Tuesday, the Tuesday, to me, it's setting everyone's schedule.
Sure. My concern too is, I know last year we had Donna and Ninochka at a lot of the meetings.
That's right.
And I don't know if Kristen and Ninochka are planning to come, but from what I understand, Monday is typically a really busy day in the treasurer's office, just because of other
All right,
payroll
well,
things. So I don't know.
so why don't we
Yeah.
keep Tuesday, and, boy, I would reluctantly say yes, I would be willing to do Tuesday, Wednesday. I don't know how you feel, Brian.
Yeah, I'd be willing to do either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday.
Tuesday, Thursday would be more comfortable, but if necessary,
Yeah. I mean, the bottom line is, guys, it's 3 weeks
Of hell.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, we're talking about the first 3 weeks in January, so there is a high probability that we might have a snowstorm.
Right.
oh yeah.
Right? So, again, another reason why this, I think, is a good idea to really compress.
Mhm.
I mean, the bottom line is if we can go into February 1st and we are 100% completely done, as opposed to March
Yes.
1st, that's great. So yeah, 3 weeks, it's gonna suck. So,
Well, I think,
so what I'm hearing is that we're all kinda, we can go either way.
yeah.
Um,
And I think that we should we should check with the selectmen, because they might, because they'll have a full board after November.
Yeah,
And one member is very familiar with,
yeah,
with what we go through.
yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I would say at this point, I mean, even they all are, right? I mean,
Right.
Stan has been doing this for a while, he knows.
Right.
And Jonathan has had one go round, and obviously
Bob
Bob.
knows this
Yeah.
end of the
Yeah.
business.
So let me do that. So what I'll do in the email is I'll propose Tuesday, Wednesday, namely to account for
Selectmen
selectmen.
representation. Yeah.
and you know, stipulate that, yeah, it's 2 nights in a row, they're gonna be long nights, and they're gonna hurt, but it's 3 weeks. We can do it. And, you know, depending upon how we go, right? I mean, we are down a person, we don't officially have to fill the seat. I think we should, because I think,
Well, we've got
Whenever-
one nominee anyway.
exactly, and I think, you know, we have at least one nominee, and I think whenever someone wants to volunteer their time to help out, I think they should. And, you know, here's a perfect night where we went an entire year with 4 people, and,
Right.
and that hurt, right? We can do it. You know, the other thing is, this is such a weird board, because it's 6.
6, I
and
know.
it's even, right? So, you know, the last thing I want to do is, you know, cut off someone who's willing to volunteer. But is this a time to say, do we keep 5? Or I don't even know how you go about doing that. I think we have to go put a request in to change it, but again,
I don't know why
I'm
it was
inclined to go.
6.
Yeah, exactly. I don't either, Joe. It's
But on the
so
other hand,
weird.
it does, I think it just gives us another chance of being able to get enough people present. And
Yeah.
theoretically, everybody doesn't have to go to every meeting, although you really have to do that. We all should.
Yeah, I mean, it is, you know, if, you know, I will invoke a previous advisory member, you know, Randy Dingen was pretty hardcore, you know,
Yeah.
it's not an official rule, but I mean, it was an unwritten rule that, you know, you miss, you know, more than 2 in a row, you know, there's questioning of, you know, what are you doing, right? I'm a little more laissez-faire, I think. It's a big commitment, you know, and
It is.
so we all want to be here. Obviously, things come up, and I think if we can, that's the other thing. I thought we did a pretty good job last year. There was definitely times where we were just checking in, making sure we had a quorum, because one of us or a couple of us were sick, out, business trip, whatever it is, right? So I think it does add. I think it's helpful. So.
Well, I think we should try to fill the board. That would be my suggestion, because just for that reason, even though it can be weird, when we get a 3-3 split, which we have,
Yeah.
we just say that we couldn't reach a,
Yeah, again, and that's the other thing. I personally like going back to what we did, which was we count the votes.
yeah, I don't know why that was changed. The selectmen changed that, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. That was a Delaney thing.
Oh, it was?
years ago,
Oh, it was, okay.
to move to just you know, it was more at the town meeting, the approve or disapprove. You know, I like the fact that we went back to a hard vote.
Yeah, I think it was, it was probably to speed up town meeting, because when it was 3-3, you'd get somebody standing up and speaking to the meeting from both sides, which I don't think is bad.
Yeah.
It does make the meetings a little longer, but
But even so, I mean, there's, I don't know. I mean, obviously I'd have to go back and look, but there's a general direct. I mean, we don't often split.
no, there were
I mean, there's definitely a couple.
There are a couple of issues, and there are some philosophical issues like, how much reserve we need and, things like that. But I think, well, that's something for the selectmen. We could, if the board, if we take a vote of the board and the committee and they decide to ask the selectmen if we could go back to the other way of doing it, I liked it.
What we ended up with last year.
No, I liked it before.
Oh, just the,
You could-
approve or disapprove?
No, you could have approved or approved
3-2 or?
3-2 or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
The vote.
that's what we ended up with last year, and I
Oh, it
don't,
was, okay.
I don't see that changing.
I guess,
mean,
okay,
unless-
it was the year before that we had
Yeah.
boy, it's all getting blurred in my mind, and I signed up for another.
Maybe you need one of those rescue bars.
I think I do, except I did just eat before I.
Right. So,
So can I ask a question about the schedule again? So for February and March, what do you envision those months being focused on? Like sort of cleanup or revisiting things that just couldn't get resolved in those first 3 weeks?
yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're, there was not as much last year, but the year before, I mean, you never know. We may have to have a given group committee come back in for a follow-up. Obviously, we need to account for snow. All I'm trying to, and you're right, this is probably, we could probably add another week, Brian, if that's where you're potentially going.
No, because I love this. I think this is great. I'm just thinking that like, if we have placeholders in the Tuesdays in February and March, just so that if for like, let's say, one of the committees ends up having a capital request that's kind of complicated, and we decide that we need to consider it and bring them back in, that we would at least have placeholders in our calendar for that kind of a thing.
Oh, yeah. And you're right. You know what? I made the assumption, but you're absolutely right. And this goes without saying that, we'll go back to the regular Tuesday schedule.
Until, okay, got it.
Yeah. I mean, effectively until we go to, town meeting. What I see happening in February, one, I would be shocked that we actually hold true to this 100%.
This is like the goal, but probably realize it. Yeah.
I would assume, what is, so January, I have us ending on January 18th. I absolutely see us going into that last week in January, the 23rd or 25th, right? And again, depending upon what happens as a function of quorum, business, whatever the deal is. Snowstorms, if we can give ourselves an extra couple of weeks. And again, what's always interesting to me is I feel as though even last year, I felt as though we did a really good job getting through the budget. But then it was like, right after that, we're going right into capital planning, and then we've got to get the story out.
That's what I was going to say, is that we wouldn't be rushing quite so much to get our report for the town report, to get
That's right.
our presentation in order. We might want to do something a little different with the presentation, I don't know.
Yeah. I see us holding true to the same process as we go through. We're just building in some time, and quite frankly, I see us dedicating more of that time to capital planning items. Like, we have someone come in, so for example, the first evening, right? And in a way, this is all good. Not only, it just so happens that, fire, police, and safety are the #1 budget driver.
Right.
The fact is, getting them all in here on the very first night, so they can all, if we have a question, someone else is there, they're all in the same room, and we can hammer it out. It's the same reason why on January 9th, we've got the treasurer, the accountant and town administrator. And I purposely put, no disrespect to Don Lowe, but I want him to stick around, right? I didn't put him first.
No.
I put him third because we got a brand new treasurer, right? I wanted her to go first so that if we asked her a question and she needed any help, she could turn around and look at Ninochka and Dawn, right? So, I mean, I was rather strategic on why I did what I did, but it also happens to be we're literally starting from the top, the number one budget driver, and we're slowly going down.
Yep.
And again, so the last evening, again, no disrespect to Parks and Rec, Conservation, Animal Control, EDC, but they are the smallest budget drivers. So I still want to hear from them, but let's get all of the big ones done up front, and we're gonna get a better handle on what the budget's looking like. We will have seen capital, and even when the police on the first night, when police, fire are in here, and we're spending time talking about any type of capital items, there is invariably, as long as we've all been doing this, it seems like when we come back to revisit capital, someone always says, well, what about X? And we're like, geez, that's a really great question. We never asked them, right? So it's just one of those things,
Sure.
and we'll be able to spend more time on capital, figure out exactly how it's gonna make sense, how to go about.
Do we has anybody been hired to replace Harold?
My understanding,
Today?
yeah, it was.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I hadn't heard anything.
I don't know who it is, but I know it was on the schedule today. They were having a
Oh,
meeting.
okay.
So that's the idea, is going back to your question, the long-winded answer of, I think we're gonna mess up the schedule, whether it's us or the weather.
Yeah.
And, but I think what we also need to, we also need to be respectful of these people. I gotta build in some time on these, because there's no doubt, in some cases, we are asking a given department head where they're probably not gonna be coming in here till 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night, which really does kind of suck.
Yeah.
And I definitely don't want to have them sitting around for an hour plus. And so I think it's incumbent upon us, and I expect you guys, there's no doubt I can, ramble on. I expect you guys to keep me honest, and we got to stay on track. And, we got to just move the conversation. But I'll even throw it out to you. Is this too aggressive? Do we take one or two of these off every single night and build out and end up on the 23rd?
So one thing just came into my head, it might be a really silly idea, but when do you think we're going to be getting the whole packet of everything from Dawn or Linda, like mid-December?
I think it's going to be back into Dawn. It should be back into Dawn around mid-November. You're thinking maybe
Well, I was
the
wondering,
December?
like, if we actually, either in December or as the first meeting in January, if it was actually just us having reviewed everything and just kind of talking about the things that we kind of think we want to drill down on. Because sometimes I feel like if we did a little bit of prep work as a group, then when we get with the department heads for the first time, we'll at least be on the same page about potential sticking points for us. Do you know what I mean? Rather than it coming up for the first time.
So I would like to think that we could do that for our December meeting.
Got it. Yeah, that'd be great.
I had
Okay.
even, and I thought this is where you were going, I had even thought about taking the January 2nd and moving it to December and getting, but again, we could go the other way. We could take, we could blow this out and, put something on, instead of finishing up in 3 weeks, we finish up in 4. I don't know.
I think it would be a good idea if we can get the budgets and go over them, and then, just as Brian suggested, just try to see if we can raise questions
Yeah,
among
like flag
ourselves.
things that were
Yeah.
like, oh, what's going on here? And not in like a,
No,
not, not in a way that makes them feel like it's confrontational, but
no,
just,
but
yeah.
this is, you ought to ask them more questions about X or Y.
yeah. Yeah, that'd be great if we could do that in December.
All right, so I'm putting that on the December 12th meeting, I'm putting that as an agenda item, overall advisory budget review prep.
And what, so for the November 14th,
Yeah, the November 14th, I guess I thought, I know we do have one nominee. I spoke briefly with Pam, and even though we
We are the ones that-
we have the ones, she still thought it would be a good idea to do an advertisement, just to make more of the town aware. So give a little bit of advertisement. Quite frankly, I see the November meeting as kind of interviewing
Sure.
and doing that, and that way, they're ready to go, and that way we have a couple weeks to get them up to speed, as much as a new person can get up to speed as we move in.
because the other thing, I don't know what the status is of the citizens petition. Do you guys know whether it's actually been submitted or? Because the thing is, I think that if that ends up being something that's taken up at the special town meeting, our bylaw requires us to consider it beforehand. So should we just have that as a placeholder agenda item or maybe wait at it and if it gets?
Yeah, I can't even remember the time, like, the timing has been all over the place, because
Yeah, they were
there's
trying
a
to,
selectman,
Right.
there's a meet, there's a vote.
on whether or not to, yeah.
Well, even though, so there has to be a vote for the selectman
Right.
position. Then I believe there's a vote for the state senator.
Oh,
or-
this-
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a primary.
Okay.
Oh, no,
No, the
the
primary-
primary is, that's right, the primary.
November 7th is the selectmen
And the party primary, I
and the
think.
primary.
That's right,
And then December is the special election for the Senate.
like December 3rd or something, I don't know what the
Yeah.
day of the week is, but it has to be a Tuesday.
So in any event, if it does somehow if it ends up as an article, then I think the Board of Selectmen will have to refer it to us. So we would need to consider it in
Yes.
November.
Yes.
Yeah, and on something like that, so I'll put that on there as a placeholder for the November meeting. Quite frankly, I see that going down as it's probably just gonna be easier for us to fire off an email with the ask of us, can we be available as a quorum at a selectmen's meeting?
I see.
Yeah,
And that
we
we
could
would
do
just
that.
walk in and,
Whatever the presentation is, we're
Yeah.
there for it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That all makes sense.
The only other thing I wanted to bring to your attention, and I don't know why I did this, but if you notice on Tuesday the 9th, I have the treasurer, accountant, town administrator, and then I go tree warden. And it probably just makes sense, given they're so close and we have historically had them in, we'll just put the tree warden up on the 4th.
With DPW?
Yeah, and I think you probably brought that to my attention, Brian, didn't you? No?
No, but it does. It's a good idea.
So you guys okay with that as a change?
Sure.
Um, and that's it. But even so, right? Like I keep on going back to the schedule, harping on how bad it's going to be. But we also know that the two big nights that are always long are the first two anyways, right? Like we have the police coming, and I think, and Joe, just so you know, for the benefit of others, Brian and I, last year, for the first time, we met with the chief
Mhm.
in advance.
Right.
So we had a pretty good idea of what was coming our way, and, I feel as though that was a very productive meeting to make his time here in front of us,
Right.
one, more efficient, and I think it went faster, and I think that's where you're going with the collective budget, right?
Yeah.
And so we plan to do that again. So that, I think that will help. But yeah, the fact of the matter is, whether it's this year or last year or 5 years ago, when the police, fire, public safety are in here, it's a long night. And when the DPW is
Oh,
in here,
God.
it's a long night. So be it,
Mhm.
right? Yeah.
We'll bring some chocolate covered espresso beans.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
that's what I did before I came over here tonight. I took a fistful of those. Now I won't be able to sleep.
Yeah, so so we'll keep the schedule as is.
Yeah, I think this was great.
I will, other than we'll take the Thursdays and look to move to Wednesdays. Move the tree warden up. We'll continue, I'll make sure that we have placeholders in the calendar for Tuesdays. Once we get through this, we'll just go back to a regular, once a week, Tuesdays. And we'll just follow the same procedure. I mean, it is amazing how quickly it goes in terms of finalizing all the capital items, going through the warrant articles,
There's gonna be a lot on planning this year.
yeah,
Right.
right. We'll end up spending a night with those guys, right? Because it's like, okay, turn this into English for us, please, because you want us to vote. So it's that stuff that ends up taking that time, right? And then to Joe's point, we gotta write the message and, all that stuff. Build the presentation, I agree. I mean, we've been making some slight tweaks to the presentation, and I think we'll continue to do that on the actual PowerPoint that we deliver, right?
Mhm.
And maybe we can even, I don't know, it's probably goes against what we were trying to do, which was, get a whole mess of the GFOA stuff, done before we go into this cycle, but I would love to be in a position that we're in March going, oh, what do we do, right? Yeah. I don't think it's gonna happen, but
Not likely.
if we find ourselves in that position, maybe we can spend a night, working on some GFOA stuff.
Yeah.
So that's it, that's what I have. And then, so any other questions, comments on the schedule, game plan for November, December?
No.
All right. So, liaisons, again, Joe, fill me in, how did you approach your liaisons? I've been more of I'm here available, I mean, except for the police, and it's really Brian,
Yeah.
Brad, we should probably meet with the police. I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea, we probably should, yes, we definitely should. Absent of Brian, I'd be like, the chief knows where I am, he can,
That's
it's good.
basically, I was very low-key. I got an invitation to attend the final library trustees meeting before they submitted their budget, and Connie was invited. I can't remember whether she showed up or not. Jonathan came,
Mhm.
and I remember that we had a little bit of a problem because I basically sort of nodded and say, yeah, okay, it looks good to me, and then that whole issue of the summer replacement stuff came up, which may not be, since we seem to have come up with a solution, that may not be a problem.
Oh, yeah, the vacation
The
budget.
vacation, filling in for vacation, I just looked at it and said, oh yeah, that's fine, and it wasn't. Of course, the other thing is, well, at least one of the nominees was chairman of the library board, but
Mhm.
she may not want to have anything to do with it after her experiences there. But no, I was not very active.
Yeah,
In fact, Bob Zack, as I say, he reached out to me and said, could you please come to our meeting? And I said, sure.
yeah.
I don't know whether it would be better if I certainly could. I could go.
Yeah, maybe it's before maybe it's at the pre-construction phase.
Yeah,
Like
I think that would be, it would probably have been better if I had attended one other meeting and just had a chance to talk to them.
Yeah, or it's like, I did this with the fire chief 2 or 3 years ago. We had a meeting early on in the budget. Like,
Mhm.
Don hadn't even sent out the letter, but he had a pretty good idea of, what he knew he had to do and what he kind of foresaw happening.
Because see, with Don, you didn't have to meet with a board.
Yeah,
The library board, I mean, I don't know if I could just meet with Kelly. I'd certainly be willing to.
mm-hmm.
Because of the trouble we had the previous year, Bob was a little sensitive.
Yeah,
I don't know if he would be this year. I don't think he would be.
yeah.
And I don't know if he's even the chairman this year. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. You're right, because I only had to meet with the fire chief.
Right. I mean, I'd be happy to meet with either with Kelly as an individual, but you have to be careful that I don't rub anybody on the board the wrong way.
Yeah.
That's all.
Well, I mean, if you're meeting with the department, I mean, I think there's other problems. If you're meeting with the library department head, to take a look and offer assistance on the budget.
Yeah, I think that is stepping into the. Well, maybe what I'll do is contact the library,
Yeah,
and say I'd be available to meet before you finalize your budget if you want to. Because they sent me a formal invitation,
mhm.
which
Okay.
I accepted. They were fine. There was no, I just wasn't diligent enough to catch that problem with the vacation fill-ins.
All right. And so, yeah, there was 2 spots that Ken had. Brian, you're thinking you might be able to handle school committee on your own. We'll just leave it open. Once we get the last person in here,
Right.
I'm sure we can fill some spots.
Because that DPW is certainly a massive,
Yeah, exactly. And there's gonna, that'll be a steep learning curve on that one.
right. Now, Ted, I think, volunteered for that because of
Yeah.
his energy expertise and his industry expertise and so on.
Yeah, it was Ted and Ken, and I don't know how, that's the other thing, I'm not sure how, their tact, was it
Yeah,
a proactive outreach, or was it a more, we let everyone know who it was, and...
Yeah, I think Ted contacted, what's her name? Is it Lorraine? Who's the secretary at the?
Oh,
No, not Lorraine.
No, Leslie.
Leslie. Oh, I know. Okay, it was close. Yeah, I think he contacted her a couple of times with specific questions, or he contacted Harold, who instructed her to respond. But I don't want to speak for Ted.
Yeah, that's fine. So are you okay maintaining, so let me ask you guys this. Are you okay maintaining your liaison
Sure.
appointments?
Mhm.
Sure.
Right, okay, so I am as well. You will check in with Ted and Connie. So that's fine. For me, that's what I have for this evening.
Okay.
So what I'll do as takeaway, I'll follow up with an email to everyone on the game plan for the November 14th meeting, the December 12th meeting. I will also revise the schedule for this coming year.
Okay.
I just had one comment
Mhm.
on the liaison stuff. So, I don't know whether we should actually expand liaisons or whether we can just talk about having like a norm of it won't be considered unusual if somebody on advisory reaches out to another committee to find out, like, so for example, planning. Hey, do you guys think that there's anything that we should be aware of? Or conservation, is there anything we should be aware of? Because I think that there are some boards and committees that don't fall into the category of having a department head, but that sometimes have big picture budget things.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I mean, like, so for example, this new town roads strategic planning committee, that might be one that at least produces recommendations that have a really big budget impact. So I feel like if there's at least an expectation that advisory be kept in the loop about what's going on there so that it doesn't come out of the blue. I don't know the best way to frame it, but.
No, that's a great point. You're right, and that was that was a good reminder. Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense, and maybe that's it. Maybe we. I don't know, I probably missed the mark. I probably could have added a paragraph into Dawn's letter. But even so, that goes out to department heads, and you've got a perfect example where, that
They're not
it's
even
not
on
a
it.
department,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
They're not even,
They're not a budget, they're not a line item.
exactly, but they're a group.
Right. Yeah, I just don't know the best way of. It's kind of just like it's almost shifting the understanding of like. Here's another example. I don't know what the cemetery commission does. I know that they're elected. I have no idea whether they need to purchase land or whether they're thinking about that, and I don't know how advisory would find out about that.
Yeah.
You know.
So I can answer that specific one. I mean, that has historically fallen under Harold. I mean, he's, it's because he's actually put it this way, he was on the cemetery committee, and I feel as though he still might be, because that was effectively a separate duty than him being a DPW head. So that was more of an elected position, but then again, I could be wrong. Maybe the new DPW guy that's also his responsibility. So I could be totally off the mark. I do know there is at least one person on there that is elected because she's my aunt.
I think there's one elected every year, and it's a 3-year term or something.
I want to say there's 3 people on there.
Yes.
I spoke to her the other night. Because she shared with me some capital items or some things that she felt as though probably should, start to be addressed within the cemeteries. It wasn't necessarily a land purchase, but that's a great example. Like, where are we, right? Do we need to look at that? This was more of, just a capital item in terms of, fixing something.
Yeah. Sure.
And I said, well, you gotta get on the list.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a good example.
I mean, I remember there was a big hoo-ha about those bollards that were installed in front of the Pan Cemetery so that truckers wouldn't park in front of it.
Yeah. And that was
went to town meeting, but I don't remember, was that historical commission, was that?
well, exactly. It was historical, right? And that was one of my beefs was why historical and why not cemetery?
Okay, because I remember that it was, it was historical.
Or I'm like, can you guys at least work together? Can you talk to one another, right? But that's,
and I mean, I think
that's to your
kind of
point.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, although I know that at some point in the years that I've been here, some money had to go into restoring some of the vaults, those the iron doors or whatever it is. Yeah, okay, well, that's,
Yeah, but, and Brian hits on, a good point, right? Like, we've got this, we've touched upon, we've got a capital plan. We've got, we've got selectmen, we've got advisory, we've got this overarching town master plan, right? And there's a lot of components.
right.
This latest, strategic roads group, right? That's a great example. They could have the absolute best intentions, get all the best research, all that stuff, and go, oh, here's our recommendation, and it's for 200, 2 million, I don't know what the number is, right? Like, well, wow, that would have been helpful to see earlier, right? Or even, whatever it is, planning, right? Like, are they going down a road of something? Or maybe they're gonna, we always, when planning is here, we always ask. So you're changing this bylaw. How does that impact the town? Right? But I always come at it from a monetary perspective. But even then, we don't want to necessarily find out about that in March.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, so, what you're saying is, can a letter go to planning as an example and go, hey, you got anything cooking that could really disrupt the budget?
Yeah,
Or just give us an update. Can you give us a monthly status report? Because we're busy with our own stuff, we're definitely not even dialing into your meetings.
yeah, and it's certainly not, I'm not raising this because I would want people to have to like generate some sort of report to us, but more just to kind of set a tone where we all want to kind of be sharing information
Sure.
and dialed in. Because like, I think a great example is planning board and our capital planning committee. From what I've seen, the people on those two committees and boards are really open to collaboration. They're really committed to the town and they like sharing information. And I feel like just
Because it's the same people.
I wasn't gonna say that. That helps. And I feel like kind of just making that part of the culture would be really helpful because, I'd love to hear what Parks and Rec are thinking and, different needs that they have. And so that when we meet them in the winter, we kind of know where they're coming from with certain things. And same thing with Council on Aging or Conservation, so maybe it's not necessarily expecting a certain report, but that if you or somebody else on advisory reached out to them in a phone call to say, hey, can you get me up to speed, 10 minutes, let me know what's up, that they would understand that the goal on our end is really just to educate ourselves, and it's not like this micromanaging scrutiny, it's just like learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we have to be careful about. We
Right.
don't want people to think that we're stepping on their toes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's.
So I don't know.
I don't know where that's, I don't even know we could identify those groups.
Well, you know what, how about, I'll check in with Don
Yeah.
and see what he has to say. Because personally, I don't know. I would have no problem calling up a department head or any of those examples you just gave. And I think that's a very easy way to just tell me what's happening. And if someone felt their toes were getting stepped on, my first inclination would be, why are you so sensitive?
Yeah.
But that's whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really just a function of, is there anything that can help us out? Information is key. We're trying to find out what's going on. Is there something that we might be able to help you out with? Or tell us something that actually could help us.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. All right. Let me see, I'll take that back to Don and see what I can, see what he has for an idea, and maybe there's the opportunity, add something into his letter. I don't know.
Sounds good. I had another ministerial request. Can we ask Linda or whoever is in charge of the agenda to just add a running item for review and approval of minutes? Just have that be somewhere on every meeting agenda.
Yeah.
Sure. It should be. Ever think of it?
All right, what else? I think,
That's all I got.
all right.
I don't have anything.
All right, so if nothing else,
Motion to adjourn.
yeah.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all. Have a very nice evening. Good night.